who's going to win the tech war between China and the United States?
Have you ever wondered how far a country can go to outdo the limits of science and power? China has done something that almost sounds impossible by creating a sun on Earth. It is not just about energy or science. It is about a nation's race to master the future. From a glowing reactor that burns hotter than the real sun to an ambition that seems endless, this story is wild, bold, and real. So, how did they pull it off? And what does it mean for the rest of the world? China's artificial sun, the machine that broke the clock. EAST is the short name for the Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak. The machine sits in Hefei at the Institute of Plasma Physics of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. On the 20th of January 2025, the experts ran a plasma experiment that lasted 1,066 seconds. That is 17 minutes and 46 seconds of steady, high-temperature plasma. The Institute and the Chinese media reported the result on the same day. Why does a long run matter? Fusion needs hot, stable plasma to produce useful energy. Holding plasma for longer allows engineers to test how to remove heat, how materials behave under stress, and how control systems keep the device stable. Short bursts show a concept. Long pulses show a path to smooth operation. The Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak device is a test bed. It uses superconducting magnets to shape and hold the hot plasma inside a vacuum chamber. The magnets can carry strong fields without large losses. Temperatures in the experiments rise far above ordinary heat. Scientists heat the plasma to over 100 million degrees Celsius. The goal is to fuse light atoms and free energy the way the sun does. Technicians measure temperature, density, and how the plasma moves. Each number tells them what changes to make next. The team that runs the Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak includes physicists, engineers, and technicians. Gong Xianzhu leads a division that handles experimental operations and communications for the ring of equipment. Researchers from universities in Beijing, Shanghai, Wuhan, and other cities work with the institute. Industrial firms supply parts such as superconducting coils, power converters, and cryogenic equipment. The work involves many specialists who test components after each run and repair what breaks. Chinese state media published photos and quotes from team leader Gong Xianzhu. The Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak is one part of a larger research picture in China. The HL-2M machine near Chengdu belongs to the Southwestern Institute of Physics and is backed by the China National Nuclear Corporation. HL-2M began commissioning in 2020. It complements the Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak by running different tests on heat loads and materials. The two machines give Chinese engineers a wider set of experiments to try. International projects also work on fusion. The International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor in France gathers partners from many countries to build a larger experiment. That project has faced delays and updated schedules. Private firms in the United States and Europe are also trying new approaches. The progress at the Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak adds data to this global effort. Scientists share results at conferences and in journals. A long pulse gives practical data. It shows how the magnets and power systems behave when they run for many minutes. It helps engineers design cooling systems that must remove heat from the machine walls. Material samples placed near the plasma show how surfaces erode or crack. The tests reveal where sensors fail and where controls need to be faster. The Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak uses superconducting coils made from alloys, such as niobium titanium, that must be cooled to very low temperatures. The cooling relies on liquid helium and complex plumbing. The magnet system makes large magnetic fields that shape the plasma. Control software adjusts the currents and magnetic fields during a run. Operators watch dozens of meters and readouts from the control room. The record of 1,066 seconds builds expertise as much as it builds data. A skilled team learns troubleshooting, sequencing, and safety checks that machines need for smooth operation. Graduate students and postdoctoral researchers gain experience running experiments, analyzing the numbers, and writing reports. The human work behind the machine is part of the technical step forward. What limits fusion today is not a single missing idea. Industry must solve many practical tasks at once. Engineers must extract heat without destroying the wall materials. They must handle fuels such as deuterium and tritium safely. They must build systems that can run day after day, and that can be built at a reasonable cost. A long pulse addresses some of these issues by giving real operating data. Serious progress is gradual. The experimental advanced superconducting tokamak did not arrive at the 1,066-second run overnight. The device set earlier records, such as a 403-second high-performance run in April 2023. Each experiment builds on the last. Engineers refine coil design, improve heating systems, and add diagnostics. This approach produces reliable data for future designs. The news about the experimental advanced superconducting tokamak raises questions for policymakers, companies, and researchers. Some will ask what the new number means for timelines toward pilot plants. Others will study the data for new designs of magnets, cooling systems, and wall materials. The device in Hefei does not produce commercial power. It provides a clearer picture of how to design the next generation of machines. The experimental advanced superconducting tokamak is a laboratory achievement with named people, firms, and dates behind it. The Institute of Plasma Physics of the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Hefei, the Southwestern Institute of Physics in Chengdu, and the China National Nuclear Corporation are part of the wider effort. These names show who builds the equipment, who runs experiments, and who trains the staff that works on future projects. The result on January 20th, 2025 adds to a global record of experiments. It is one factual milestone among many in fusion research. Observers and engineers will study the data to decide what to build next, how to test new materials, and how to plan budgets for pilot plants in the years ahead. But while the world watched the sparks of fusion light up laboratories on Earth, could China's ambitions be reaching even higher, beyond our planet's skies? Other giant builds, from dams to space. Tiangong is China's modular space station. The core module Tianhe launched on April 29, 2021. The laboratory modules Wentian and Mengtian joined the station in 2022. Tianhe is the living and control module. Wentian and Mengtian carry science racks for experiments in microgravity. The station supports long crew missions and many experiments in biology, materials, and astronomy. China plans a space telescope module called Zhuntian for later launches. Baihetan Hydropower Station sits on the Jinsha River. Baihetan became fully operational on December 20, 2022. It has 16 turbines rated at 1,000 megawatts each. The total installed capacity is 16 gigawatts. That output makes Baihetan one of the largest hydropower plants in the world. Project teams include China Three Gorges Corporation and state power builders. The Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River remains the largest plant by installed capacity. Construction began in 1994, and the main power plant became fully operational in 2012. The Three Gorges complex has 32 main turbines rated at 700 megawatts and 2 smaller units. The plant capacity is about 22,500 megawatts. The dam also serves flood control and navigation. The South-North Water Transfer Project moves water from the Yangtze Basin toward the north. Construction began in 2003, and phased routes opened from 2013 onwards. The project has 3 main routes called Eastern, Central, and Western. The Central route delivers water to Beijing and Tianjin along canals and tunnels. The scheme aims to ease shortages in northern provinces and to protect groundwater. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge links 3 cities across the Pearl River Delta. The bridge and tunnel system spans about 55 kilometers. It opened in October 2018. The project includes a long sea bridge, an undersea tunnel, and artificial islands. Engineers built the link to speed trade and travel in the Delta region. Beijing Daxing International Airport opened in 2019. The terminal covers 700,000 square meters. Architect Zaha Hadid designed the starfish-shaped terminal. Daxing is among the world's largest single-building terminals, and it supports multiple runways. The airport links to high-speed rail and serves Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei. The Sichuan-Tibet Railway is a long line under construction across mountains and high plateaus. The project links Chengdu in Sichuan with Lhasa in Tibet. Some sections opened earlier, while the central stretch with many tunnels and bridges remains under construction. Engineers face high altitude, permafrost, and seismic challenges. China has built one of the largest high-speed rail systems in the world. The network links major cities with dedicated high-speed lines and has several thousand kilometers of track in service. Trains travel at high speeds on lines such as Beijing-Shanghai and Beijing-Kunming. The network carries millions of passengers each day and supports national logistics. New bridges and record structures are often built across China. The Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge in Guizhou was reported in 2025 as one of the tallest bridges on record. The design crosses a deep canyon and shortens local journeys. Authorities also add skywalks, viewing platforms, and tourist facilities to attract visitors. The Belt and Road Initiative is not a single project in China. It is a global program that funds ports, roads, rail, and power in many countries. Launched in 2013, it aims to improve trade links and regional infrastructure. Key projects include the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and railway links in Southeast Asia. Chinese firms and state banks often provide finance and construction teams for projects abroad. Builders and state firms lead many of these works. China Three Gorges Corporation manages the Three Gorges complex and helped plan Baihetan. Power China, China Energy Engineering Group, and State Power Investment Corporation are frequent partners on dams and power plants. China Railway Group and China Railway Construction Corporation handle major rail and bridge work. CRRC builds many of the trains used on the high-speed network. Construction budgets range widely. Launch sites and rocket teams support the space program. The Long March family of rockets lifts station modules from Wenchang and other ports. China National Space Administration leads mission planning, while the China Manned Space Agency manages crew rotation. Scientific teams on Tiangong run experiments in biology, with named institutes and universities contributing racks. Astronomers will use the planned Juntian Space Telescope for surveys. The Sichuan-Tibet Railway shows how China tackles hard terrain. Sections near Chengdu and Lhasa opened earlier. The middle section crosses many tunnels and high bridges and needs careful geological work. Firms use tunnel boring machines and avalanche protection systems. Engineers design for permafrost, low oxygen, and steep grades. The final line will reduce travel time between inland cities and the Tibetan capital. The Belt and Road Initiative funds major foreign projects. Examples include the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, rail links in Laos, and the port redevelopment at Piraeus in Greece. Chinese banks and state firms provide loans, planning, and teams for construction. The export work brings Chinese managers, engineers, and equipment to foreign sites. Each project shows a named city, a lead firm, start and opening dates, and specific capacity or length that defines its scale for planners and local communities, and future local growth. But beneath these impressive blueprints lies something far more complex, a web of strategy, control, and quiet ambition. How exactly does China turn these colossal plans into power? How China makes them? Large projects start with planning and money. The National Development and Reform Commission sets many national plans. The Ministry of Finance assigns budgets and subsidies for key projects. Local governments also add funds and offer land. This mix of national and local support helps push projects from plan to construction. State-owned builders lead the work. China State Construction Engineering and Power China are two of the largest firms. China Railway Group and China Railway Construction Corporation build major rail lines and bridges. CRRC makes trains and rail equipment. China Three Gorges Corporation manages large hydropower projects. The China National Nuclear Corporation and the Institute of Plasma Physics run fusion tests and related work. State banks provide long-term loans. China Development Bank and the Export-Import Bank of China fund many big projects at home and abroad. For overseas work, Chinese banks often offer loans to governments or to joint companies. State-owned contractors then win engineering, procurement, and construction contracts. Firms use a mix of direct construction, joint ventures, and local partners. Also, many projects use public procurement rules. The government sets technical standards and safety checks. Experts from universities and research institutes review designs. Large projects hire thousands of workers during construction and fewer workers after opening. Contractors place orders for steel, concrete, electrical systems, and complex machines such as turbines and superconducting magnets. Research teams work with industry. At fusion centers, universities supply theory and diagnostics, while companies provide hardware. At airports and bridges, civil engineering firms design the spans and control systems. Dams and water projects involve hydrologists, geologists, and environmental teams. The collaboration produces a supply chain across provinces in China and sometimes across borders. Budgets vary by scale. A large dam or a major airport can cost tens of billions of yuan. The state can use bonds, bank loans, and special project funds to cover costs. Revenues from power sales, tolls, or airport fees repay loans over time. For projects abroad, host countries may share revenue plans with Chinese firms. Project management uses phased milestones. They report to a central committee, adjust schedules, and test systems during trial runs. Safety records and quality testing are mandatory parts of the process. After opening, many projects move to a maintenance phase where local teams keep the work running. The process from plan to operation can take years or decades, depending on the size and complexity of the work. China exports construction expertise through the Belt and Road Initiative. China Communications Construction Company leads some port and road projects abroad. The China Railway Groups build high-speed lines in Malaysia and Laos with local partners. In Pakistan, Chinese firms help build the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor roads and energy plants. The export work brings Chinese managers, engineers, and equipment to foreign sites. Large projects sometimes require the resettlement of local communities for reservoirs or new cities. Some formal rules and committees plan relocation, compensation, and new housing. Environmental studies and impact assessments are part of the approval process. Local and national agencies review the final plans before construction begins. But beyond these massive undertakings lies something even more ambitious: projects reshaping nations and futures alike. What drives this expansion? Quick facts, latest projects, and the big questions. Quick facts first. On January 20th, 2025, the experimental advanced superconducting tokamak in Hefei held plasma for 1,066 seconds. The Institute of Plasma Physics reported the run as a steady, high confinement experiment. HL2M in Chengdu first fired its plasma in 2020 and serves as a complementary test device. Baihetan opened fully on December 20th, 2022, with 16 1,000 megawatt turbines. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge opened in October 2018 and spans about 55 kilometers. Beijing Daxing Airport began operations in September 2019. Recent headlines in 2025 include reported openings and starts on new structures. News outlets covered a new Grand Canyon Bridge in Guizhou that set a record for height this year. Reports also covered the start of large hydropower planning on the Yarlung Changpo in Tibet. announced in mid-2025. International projects under the Belt and Road continued with rail links in Southeast Asia and port work in Europe and Africa. Now, a few questions to help viewers think. Does a long plasma record at the experimental advanced superconducting tokamak mean commercial fusion is near? The short answer is no. The record is a lab milestone. It does give better data for magnets and materials. Will fusion advance faster because of the Hefe work? The run shortens some technical gaps, but does not remove economics and supply chain issues. Does building big bridges, dams, and rail lines change a country overnight? The answer is no. New infrastructure enables faster travel, more power, and new jobs over time. Who builds these projects? State-owned firms such as China State Construction Engineering, Power China, China Railway Group, and CRRC handle large contracts. State banks such as the China Development Bank and the Export-Import Bank of China supply long-term loans. Local governments provide land and approvals. University researchers and state institutes deliver technical reviews and trained staff. What can viewers check for themselves? Look at the date of the record at the Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak, January 20th, 2025. Search for the Baihetan operational date, December 20th, 2022. Check the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge opening date in October 2018. Find the Beijing Daxing Terminal opening in 2019. Each named fact has official sources and news reports that record dates, capacities, and builder names. Finally, a short note on scale. Large projects combine people, firms, money, and time. A long plasma test is a lab achievement with direct technical value to future machines. A dam or airport is a physical asset that adds power, transport, and work. A bridge can change travel times for whole regions. Each project is a different kind of build with different benefits, limits, and risks. The role of planners, engineers, and local people determines how useful each project becomes over time. Some commentators frame the gap as a long lag. A fair question is whether different funding models, regulatory steps, and private sector roles explain different paces. Viewers should ask which trade-offs it brings. Think about cost, time, jobs, and safety. The idea of building a sun on Earth once sounded impossible, yet China has turned that dream into something real. It is proof of how far human ambition can go when limits are pushed. The race for clean and endless energy is just beginning, and the world is watching closely. What do you think will happen next in this global quest for power? Share your thoughts below, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and do not forget to subscribe for more.